If came out today and said they're gonna make a PC exclusive 007 game based on Half-Life technology, the world would stop. I promise. This game was a love letter. I just have a hunch that this game's reception on some level shaped EA to the company that they have now. They were always big money, but their projects used to be special. I played this game so much when I was younger. I played this version more than the console version. And despite the feedback, I actually really enjoyed it. Like the art direction, the art style in this game is wonderful. It's so interesting how these older games that focus on art more than photorealism are the ones that hold up. The reason why I ended up with this game, I don't know what I was looking up at the time, but I ended up on Internet Archive or some website. I saw this game and I downloaded it, and it's just been sitting in my downloads folder. And I'm glad I did that. The game starts off with Bond in pursuit of some nigga named Drake, who is up to a whole bunch of sketchy shit. It turns out there's like mad spies on this nigga's ass trying to essentially stop this dude from doing supervillain shit. A lot of people die, but we're gonna flirt with some hoes. We're gonna drink on the job. You look important.
Right.
We're gonna blow some shit up. We're gonna commit crimes in the name of world peace. That's essentially the story. The gameplay's fire. This is an action adventure Half-Life game. When it dawned on me that this is Half-Life, I approached all the combat like Half-Life, and it clicks. Everything clicks. The movement clicks. The way the guns work. If you understand how Half-Life works as a game, then you understand how to use these guns. You get all these gadgets. You get these huge fucking like sprawling levels. There's not a lot of loading screens. There is some trial and error, but that's kind of what it is with them old games. Some of the shit's just trial and error. And that's what it is with new games too. Sometimes you just gotta find the solution. That looks like one-way glass, doesn't it? Let's go over here. There's no one in there. And when the bullets start flying, man, oh my goodness, how it sweeps and shit. Oh God. Oh, the enemies, I think, are pretty fucking smart. There were so many times I found these guys outsmarting the shit out of me. Goddamn. I thought they hit me with the flank move. They might be flanking me. They didn't flank me. All of the weapons seem viable, and it actually seems like the more potent a weapon is, the bigger the flaws are. There's a lot of guns, and they make the other guns really fun to use. Sound is really good, it's beefy. I haven't even talked about the fucking gadgets yet, man. There's so many gadgets, and they all have a purpose. He has glasses that he can use, like, you know, some sunglasses. They have night vision, IR vision, and then they have X-ray vision. The nigga has two different phones. He carries around two phones. He has a lighter that looks, you know, it's a camera, but it looks like a lighter. A pin dart to knock people out for longer, I guess. But if you want to use non-violence, you can actually go up and punch people, and that will knock them out temporarily, kind of like CQC, Metal Gear Solid style. In this game, it doesn't use any fucking like yellow tape. It doesn't use any white paint. You just have to go read your environment. The rooms are labeled, and all the rooms are mapped out differently, even rooms with desks. It's like all the desks have different arrangements. You know, when you explode shit, like it's almost like each computer has its own destruction model or some shit. Like there's so much variety. Man, when I blew up the server room and seeing that all of the servers have different debris, no one ever noticed that, but they took the effort to do it. Everything's a landmark. The environments are all super varied. It feels like a sandbox. The enemies are totally unpredictable. Once they're onto you, you don't know what they're gonna do. They might run after you, they might take cover, they might throw a grenade at your ass. And they're not trying to die, they're trying to kill your ass. They don't pile in the doors, they find angles and they tear your ass up. It's crazy how smart the AI is in this game. Like they catch you slipping. And there's not like too much music, it's very ambient. There's dynamic music, so when you kill all the enemies, the music dies down. And so there's some nice pacing. You gotta be able to read. It's just one of those games. It's a thinking man shooter. They took me all over the place, man. None of these areas look the same. I was underwater. I was in space. I was in motherfucking like Antarctica, I think. There's so much to see and do. In so many ways you can manipulate the environment and manipulate the AI. And so long as you play by the rules, it's like, it's a game-ass game. That's how I like to describe games like this. It's not trying to be realistic. It's a game. You follow the rules, it'll let you win. And the game will do funny shit sometimes. It's built to do that. This game holds up better than a lot of games that came out around this time. This is just like effortlessly cool, effortlessly interesting. They took the GoldSrc engine to its absolute limit. The audio is really good. It cracks, bro. The gun sounds are so beefy. Oh. And the way the recoil works, man, these guns feel like they have like fucking power, man. It jump scared me a couple of times, like, cause it's so ambient, and then it'll hit you with the James Bond sound real quick. Okay. Secret jump scare. When like people start shooting at you out of nowhere, it's scary as hell. Soundtrack's fire, the intro song is fucking fire. I think it has the best character models I've seen in any GoldSrc based thing. I think it has the best gun models. I think it has some of the best animations in any GoldSrc anything. It's set piece after set piece. And it's really polished. It did crash a couple times, but there was only one thing that happened in the game where I had to restart. And that was towards the end. But if I like alt tab during like a menu or like during like a cinematic, then the game would crash. I think it's gonna break something when I alt escape. See, I knew it was gonna break. Oh, fuck, it broke. My saves, I hope it didn't ruin my save, dude. Oh no. Other than that, it's really fucking polished. I need to see if anything with this version like was changed once it died. Like, I don't know if this is like a community modded like executable or not, or if this is the native game. Because if this is the native game, this game was light years ahead of its time. Because this game is fucking its frame rate is not limited to 30 frames per second. I was playing this game at 465 frames per second, and there were no bugs in the animations. There are no bugs in the physics. Everything worked perfectly, which is not something you see out of games that came out around this time. Most of those games broke at high frame rates. The interface was super straightforward, highly polished, big UI elements. It was built to go past 30 frames per second and still retain its gameplay and not break. It's extremely forward thinking. It feels a lot more, it feels like Metal Gear Solid to me. I think Metal Gear Solid is probably one of the closest example. Like, I think the closest equivalent this game has is Metal Gear Solid and Hitman. Metal Gear Solid and Hitman. That's this game's competition. There is Deus Ex, but Deus Ex is a little bit different, man. Like, Deus Ex is an RPG. This isn't an RPG. This is a story-driven action-adventure game. Your character is that nigga at the beginning. He's that nigga at the end. You already know who you're dealing with. Bond don't need no fucking XP to know how to use his billion-dollar watch. He don't need that. He already know how to use it. He already know how to use all these guns. He don't need no fucking charisma bar. He already fucking bagged your girl, dog. And he's in the city, which means she got a business trip now, my nigga. What's Bond gonna do with a skill tree? Another cool thing about this game is Bond, I don't think, is the most competent spy out here. I think Bond is a talented man amongst talented people, and they're all fucking up. Everybody dying. Bond barely getting off. And sometimes Bond will watch a bitch get kidnapped, and then he'll call it in, and they'll be like, "You gotta go save her," and he'll be like, "All right, bet, I got you. I'll go save her. I got you." It does have some weird things though. The F button didn't work sometimes, like taking off the glasses. Like, if you were watching me play, I'd be like, yo, take off the Harada-sans. Take off the Harada-sans. Put on the Harada-sans. I need my Harada-sans. Bring out the Harada-san. Right, take off the Harada-san.
Are you doing it to me?
Sometimes it'd come up, sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes it'd go down, sometimes it wouldn't. That part is kind of busted. And, you know, that could impact the gameplay a little bit. I feel like there could have been more feedback for when you successfully land hits. Some enemies just take more damage than others, and you just gotta kind of figure it out. And that's not usually a problem until you're fighting the bosses. I like what they were doing with the interface for the most part. I feel like the way they organize the weapons and the weapon wheel and how that shit works could be a little bit more fleshed out. When it goes down, it's very twitch based. So small mistakes can really cost you a lot. So it was really frustrating when that shit would happen. I think the bosses were a little lackluster. I would have liked to see them make the bosses a little bit more intelligent, or like puzzles instead of bullet sponges. And if they were going to be bullet spongy in how you approach them, or better feedback, or a life bar or something. You start, getting close to dying. You don't know how much more damage you had to do. And I didn't really like that part. I thought the bosses could have been improved. I thought the boss characters were solid. The best bosses were the ninjas by far. Even though some levels definitely felt like labyrinths, everything had like a landmark. Rooms are labeled and they're modeled differently. Everything's a landmark. And you just didn't see that in games like this at the time. Even some of the classic games struggle with that. The environments are so interesting. There's always new information to take in. And knowing that it's a GoldSrc engine game, like what am I gonna do, fucking critique the GoldSrc engine? Like if you compare this game to any other GoldSrc engine game, it's a masterclass. I think the only level that maybe visually could be improved a little bit was the level where you're out in the jungle. I think the sunny levels, like even modern games struggle with the sun being out. So I'm not surprised they struggled with it, but the level was still beautiful. It was just a little bit more flat. But I thought it was really good, man. Like I didn't have a lot of problems with the graphics. I didn't have a lot of problems with the audio. Again, some audio is a little bit unbalanced. The enemies don't make sounds when they're walking. I think that made the game feel a little bit more like horror. I kind of liked that. And I kind of liked that it put responsibility on my X-ray glasses to figure that out. Some recordings were extremely low quality. They weren't overthinking it, man. Like so many companies now blow so much money on trying to make shit look and sound perfect. And then they fire a bunch of people. But nobody wants that from these games. We just want it to be fun and interesting. And honestly, jank is cool. And this game just kind of rolls with the punches, man. Like they had a whole cutscene that just sounded like shit.
And he's not going to let the Nightfire files leave with you. These stairs go directly up to the helipad. It's your only chance of escape.
Dominique, if Drake finds you out...
Do you think you're the only spy who can make someone trust you completely?
Yes, please, more of this. It's really charming, man. It's a total package. And it took me about, I don't know, 6 hours to beat. This game definitely comes off like 90s, 2000s male fantasy porn. Suave guy, wears a suit, drinks martinis, fucks hot girls, saves the world, kills niggas and blows shit up, steals, like that high flying shit, like not playing by the rules. But like a lot of low hanging fruit. There was one cutscene, I was with this girl and this other lady walks in and it's another spy. And Bond bagged both of them already. They both were well acquainted with each other. But then they start talking about a whole other spy that Bond also bagged. He just bagged all the girls, man. Like, it's ridiculous. It's supposed to be like, it's a character, like if you watch Archer, it makes this character make a lot more sense. But it's really aware, man. There's some really interesting, they flip tropes on their head, very interesting way. There's something that happens earlier in this ball area. They call this a Drake party. We don't really know what it is, but he's like some weirdo high flying dude that lives life on the edge, right? He's got all these girls in his party, but a lot of the girls in the party have on really, really short skirts. And the only woman down here that doesn't have on an extremely short skirt is a major player in the entire story. There's a lot of subtext there. And then one of these ladies gets captured later on in this area. He's like, take her away and interrogate her. And she's like, what kind of sick party is this? So it's not very subtle in regards to this, this Drake guy being a bad fucking guy. The more we learn about billionaire culture, the more we know that, some of these girls are getting a raw fucking deal. And then fucking Steve Ballmer owning a fucking like massage parlor in Japan, I think. Look, that's Steve Ballmer. The reason why they're here is because this nigga got his hands in a lot of fucking crazy shit. And he also got a house full of hoes. It's hokey. And sometimes it's extremely uncomfortable. It is definitely an ongoing sexual harassment training type game. All these fucking billionaires are fucking each other. And maybe that's the whole thing. I think that if you take it with a grain of salt and have fun with it, there's a lot to enjoy about the story. I would have liked to see a stronger ending. I would have liked to see a bigger payoff, but I also appreciate that it's like another day in the office. Like, that's kind of how I felt. Another day in the office for Bond. You know, he just really does this. Like, I do kind of appreciate that about the game. Like, this is just his life. You know, there ain't no big payoff. The big payoff is we get paid. We get to go back home and party and bullshit. And so, yeah, it's hard to have a big problem with that. The journey is so solid, and it did feel good seeing those end credits. And it don't feel like they cheaped out. This game feels extremely high budget. I would highly recommend this game. Y'all should play it yourselves, especially for free. This is a piece of history. I think this is the GoldSrc engine pushed to its absolute limits. I do remember playing the console version and then playing the PC version, being a little bit disappointed that they were different. And Half-Life didn't have the prestige that it has now, but also so much has happened in the gaming world since these games have come out. This is just a type of game that I have a new appreciation for, man. I don't think I could have ever appreciated this game this way without having some separation between me and that game, and like continuing the game and, you know, seeing what's changed. And, you know, there's so many new games that come out that try to look like this game or these old games. These games are still in, man. When you look at it through that lens, you know, like it really starts turning into, well, what is it about these games that stand out? What is it about these games that make them interesting? People don't even want photorealistic graphics anymore. And so now that we're at that point, like, and I kind of agree, we can make these games do whatever the fuck we want. And so now that we've hit that benchmark, what are the games that end up holding up for the longest time? It's usually the games with a solid art direction. And I think this game has incredible art. I'm just so impressed with this game. If you like Half-Life and you like James Bond, you owe it to yourself to play this game. I would dare say it's just as good of a game in a lot of ways as Half-Life. It's so focused, and I think the things that it got criticized for in the past are what make them strong now. I love this game. This is one of my favorite games ever made. I'm very glad I played it again.
Excuse me, do you know where the bathroom is? Yo, it's 6 p.m. My mother's making codfish again. I ain't gonna take this shit. I'm gonna grab my keys quick. So I go outside and jump in a storm. Someone's cooking corn, but I'd rather watch porn than eat that shit. Besides, I'm going to Burger King, kid. Gonna get me some Burger, kid.